So let's start with page 74 today, everyone. They just played at a much higher level in rare air. They brought rigor to what they did. They'd spend weeks, months, sometimes years getting the finishing touches perfect. They forced themselves to stay with the work when they felt alone or scared or bored. They persisted in the translation of their heroic visions into everyday reality when they were misunderstood, ridiculed, and even attacked. God, I admire the great geniuses of this world. I really do. The further a society drifts from the truth, the more it will hate those that speak it, offered an artist succinctly. The entrepreneur looked at him as she began to rub a bracelet on her wrist. George Orwell said that, he pronounced, and whenever you are creating beauty around you, you are restoring your own soul. The artist carried on. Alice Walker said that the masters produce in a way that ordinary workers would label as obsessive, expounded the industrialist. But the reality of remarkability is that what the 95% of performers call a picky behavior surrounding an important project, the top 5% of creators know is simply the price of admission for world class. Here, look at a model again so we can bring even more precision to your understanding around it. Instructed the billionaire as he touched the diagram on the piece of silk. The majority of people on the planet today really are trapped in superficiality, he confirmed. Superficial understanding of their power to rise, superficial intimacy with the possibilities of their potential, superficial knowledge of the neurobiology of mastery, the daily routines of the world builders, and the very ambitions they wish to prioritize the remainder of their lives around. The majority is stuck in a vague, imprecise thinking, and vague, imprecise thinking yields vague, imprecise results. A quick example: ask the average person for directions, and most of the time you'll discover their instructions are unclear. That's because the way they think is unclear, said the billionaire as he picked up a stick from the beach and pointed towards the word granularity on the framework. Legendary achievers are vastly different. They get that amateur levels of awareness will never lead to the highest grade of professional results. Another example I hope will dial in this important insight for you too. I'm a huge fan of Formula One racing. I was invited to hang out with my favorite team in the pit arena recently. Their attention to the slightest of particulars, their dedication to the demonstration of extreme excellence, and their willingness to do whatever it took to make things great was not only validating but tremendously inspiring. Again, to the ordinary person, the suggestion of the need for an obsessive attention to the most minor of details and the most importance of ridiculously rigorous approach in their pro and private lives seems odd. But that is F1 crew. Their flawless calibration of the race car, their superhuman speed in executing pit stops, and even the way they cleared the pit arena with an industrial vacuum cleaner after the car roared away. So there wasn't even a hint of dirt anywhere was fantastic. This is my point. The top 5% go granular versus applying a superficial mindset to their daily attitudes, behaviors, and activities. They really sweat the fine points so much they removed the dirt from the pit arena after the race car left. Questioned the artist, fascinated. Yup, remarked the billionaire. They swept and vacuumed the whole bay. And when I asked them why, they told me that even if a molecule of sediment got into the race machine's engine, it could cause them a win, or even worse, could result in the loss of a life. Actually, any small failure or even one team member to act with precision could create a tragedy. One loose screw left by an unfocused crew member could lead to a calamity. One checklist item missed by a distracted associate might cause a catastrophe, or one missing measurement overlooked by a squad partner, leaving some of his precious attention on the phone he was playing with prior to the pit stop could cost a victory. I'm beginning to agree with you that the approach you're speaking of is important, admitted the entrepreneur. Very few business people and those in other fields like arts, sciences, and sports think and behave like this anymore. It used to be normal, I guess. Developing high awareness around the things that we do and having a painstaking approach to making our work perfect, refining the details, sweating the little points, producing with precision rather than being unprofessional and careless, under promising and over delivering, taking immense pride in our craft, going deep and embracing, to use your words, granularity versus superficiality. I must give credit where it's due, said the billionaire humbly. This languaging and this model was taught to me by spell was taught to me by the spellbinder. But yes, small things matter when it comes to mastery. I read somewhere that the Space Shuttle Challenger disaster, which broke so many hearts, was caused by the failure of single O-ring seal that some expert valued at 70 cents. A horrific ending of lives was caused by a flaw around what appeared to be an insignificant detail. This all makes me think of the Dutch genius Vermeer. The artist contributed. He was a painter who pursued the highest quality. He experimented with different techniques that would allow natural light to fall in a way that made his art look three dimensional. There was such a depth to what he created, such attractiveness to each stroke, and such refinement in every move. So, I agree too. The average artist has a really light, basic, and impatient approach to their painting. Their focus is more on the cash than on the craft. Their attention is on the fame, not the finesse. I guess that because of this, they never build the higher awareness and acumen that will help them make the better choices, that will give them the better results, that will make them the legends of their field. I'm starting to get how powerful this simple model is. I love Vermeer's Woman in Blue reading a letter And of course, girl with a pearl earring, said the billionaire, cementing the fact that he appreciated great art. I love this insight that you're sharing with us. Observe the entrepreneur as her eyes widened. She then grasped the artist's hand. Mr. Riley winked. I knew this was coming. He muttered with obvious happiness on seeing their growing romantic connection. He closed his eyes once again. The butterfly was still singing on the ear of the eccentric tycoon. As it flapped its exotic colored wings, Mr. Riley spoke these words from the almighty poet Rumi. Gamble everything for love if you are a true human being. If not, leave this gathering. Half heartedness doesn't reach into majesty. Can I ask something? Wondered the entrepreneur. Absolutely, replied the billionaire. How does this philosophy of rigor and granularity play out in personal relationships? Not well, was the candid reply of the shirtless baron. The spellbinder schooled me on a concept called the dark side of genius. Basically, the idea is that every human gift comes with a downside, and the very quality that makes you special in one area is the same one that makes you a misfit in another. The reality is that many of the greatest virtues of the world had messy private lives. The very gift of seeing a vision few else could see, holding themselves to the absolute highest standards, being content alone for a long stretches of time as they worked monomaniacally, detailing the most minor points on their projects, behaving relentlessly in following through on their masterpieces, acting with rarely seen self discipline, and listening to their hearts while ignoring their critics, made personal relationships hard. They were misunderstood and seen as difficult, different, rigid, and unbalanced. The billionaire then fell to the sand and started doing more push ups at a ferocious pace. Next, while staring at the white dove that he glided over the roof of his oceanside home, he did 20 burpees. Then he carried on. And many of these legends of creativity, productivity, and world class performance were out of balance, the magnate stated. There were perfectionists, mavericks, and fanatics. This is the dark side of genius. The very things that make you amazing at your craft can devastate your home life. Just telling your cats the truth. Observed the billionaire as he sipped from a water bottle that had a tiny lettering on it. If you looked closely at it and carefully, here's what you'd read: Philip of Macedonia, in a message to Sparta, you're advised to submit without further delay, for if I bring my army into your land, I will destroy your farms, slay your people, and raise your city. Sparta's reply: If. But just because your gifts have downsides to them doesn't mean you shouldn't express them. Expounded the billionaire energetically. You just need to develop awareness around those when they can lead you into trouble in your personal life and manage those traps. And this brings me beautifully back to the morning's learning model. That really does set the stage for everything you learn about the transformational value of the 5 a.m. club and how to lock it in as an enduring habit. The industrialist bent down, picked a sea-worn stick, and touched it to the silk swatch. Please always remember the core maxim for elite performance, that this framework for personal greatness has been built around. With better daily awareness, you can make better daily choices. And with better daily choices, you'll start seeing better daily results. The spellbinder calls this the 3 step success formula. See, with better awareness of natural ability to achieve great things, for example, on how on how installing the 5 a.m. method into your morning routine will upgrade your productivity. You'll rise from the community of superficiality that currently dominates the earth up into the society of granularity. The heightened level of insight and consciousness will then optimize your daily decisions, and logically, once you get your daily choices right, you'll accelerate your leadership, accomplishment, and impact dramatically because it's your decisions that make your results. For one of our coaching sessions, the billionaire continued, the spellbinder and I met in Lucerne, Switzerland. Such a pretty city set on a magnificent lake surrounded by breathtaking mountains. Sort of a fairy tale kind of place. Anywho, one morning he ordered a pot of hot water along with some lemon wedges so he could have the fresh lemon tea he enjoys sipping most mornings. Here's the thing, this should be interesting. The artist interrupted as he scratched an arm with a tattoo built around an Andy Warhol quote that said, I never think that people die. They just go to department stores. The tray arrived. The billionaire went on. Perfect silverware, excellent china, everything calibrated to the highest order. And get this, whoever cut the lemons in the kitchen exercised the deep craft rigor essential to the sustained mastery by actually going the extra mile and carving the seeds out of the wedges. Amazing, right? The billionaire began to do the same quirky dance that he did at the conference center. Then he stopped. The entrepreneur and the artist shook their heads. A pretty uncommon level of care and attention to the detail in a world of such superficiality and performance struck in apathy, said the entrepreneur, pretending not to be distracted by the moguls dancing. The spellbinder calls the phenomena of parading commerce these days the collective deprofessionalization of business. Noted the billionaire. People who should be working, delighted customers, showcasing extraordinary skills, unlocking otherworldly value for their organizations, so both they and their firms experience success, are watching inane videos on their phones, shopping online for shoes, or scrolling through their social feeds. I've never seen people so disengaged at work, so checked out, and so exhausted. And I've never seen people making so many mistakes. The millionaire pointed the crooked stick at the 3 step success formula again. De-seeding the lemon wedges is a fine metaphor to challenge you to consistently make the shift from superficiality to granularity. Real rigor in terms of your approach to not only what you do at work, but how you operate in your private life. True depth as it relates to how you think, behave, and deliver. Healthy perfectionism and an unyielding quest to be the best that you are capable of becoming is what I'm suggesting you. Two good folks here on the awesome beach. This is what the spellbinder calls a GCA, gargantuan competitive advantage. It's never been so easy to own the sport in business today because so few performers are doing the things required to reach industry dominance. Mastery is a rarity, and people who play at a brilliant level are a scarcity. So the field is yours. If you show up the way I'm encouraging you to show up, here's the powerful insight. There's a ton of competition at ordinary, but there's almost none at extraordinary. There's never been such a glamorous opportunity to become peerless because so few people are dedicated to world class in this age of such scattered focus, eroded values, and deteriorated faith in ourselves, along with the inherent primal power we hold. How often do you meet someone at the store or in a restaurant who's fully present, astoundingly quiet, and usually knowledgeable, full of enthusiasm, incredibly hardworking, intensely imaginative, noticeably inventive, and gasworthily great at what they do? Almost never, right? Yes, acknowledge the entrepreneur. I'd have to interview thousands of people to find one treasure like this. So you cats have a GCA. Lucky you, shouted the billionaire. You can pretty much dominate your fields because so few are like this now. Raise your commitment, step up your standards, and then get busy on hardwiring in this way of being as your default. And that's really important. You have to optimize daily. Consistency really is the DNA of mastery. And small, daily, seemingly insignificant improvements, when done consistently over time, yield staggering results. Please remember that great companies and wonderful lives don't happen by sudden revolution. Nope, they materialize via incremental evolution. Tiny daily wins and iterations stack into outcomes of excellence over long term. But few of us have the patience these days to endure the long game. As a result, not many of us ever become legends. Okay, let's take a pause here and let's discuss what we understood. Miss Taranjit, did you attend from the starting?
Hello, hello.
Yeah.
Good evening. No, I did not enter from the starting, but whatever I understood, the quote of Rumi, that is really very beautiful. That gamble everything for love if you are a true human being. If not, leave this gathering. Half-heartedness doesn't reach into majesty, and that's
Mm.
really very true. Like if you do anything for that matter, like how the spellbinder and the billionaire are saying, anything that you do wholeheartedly, the results are magnificent.
Yeah.
Wherever there is a small thing also which you miss out, and they have given the example of that racing car, that one nut or one bolt, if it is not placed properly, it can lead to a major accident. And
Yeah.
and very beautiful example of removing the seeds from the lemon wedges. Hardly anybody notices this, and very few people will do it. So this is something really great.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I think you pretty much summed it up, Taranjit ji.
Bhavish, why
Yeah,
don't you say what you took away from it?
yeah. So I think the what the billionaire here is trying to explain is, most of the people in an industry, they tend to be the 95%, and only a few, only very sparingly or very few people tend to achieve that perfection or even try to go near that perfection. So because of that, the competition, or let's say the amount of people that are there at the extraordinary level, is very few. And that is what we're looking for nowadays. Those are the qualities that a person needs in his life these days. And he is trying to tell that, a perfect routine, getting up in the morning at 5 a.m. And then because of that, because of getting up at 5 a.m., we, usually tend to make better choices or better decisions that overall tend to lead to a better day ultimately. So I think that's what the billionaire here is trying to tell. And the entrepreneur also agrees that these days, to find a person like that who is in the top 1% or the top 5%, are one with extraordinary qualities, we have to interview thousands of people to get that one right person. Nowadays, it is becoming, he's trying to tell that it is becoming more and more difficult because people tend to spend their times on social medias instead of the times where they can be creative and productive. So if people, stop doing the unnecessary things and focus on what's really important, their life will be like much better. Yeah, I think those are my points. If anyone
Good,
wants to say
Bhavish, you can
anything,
go on.
yeah.
Yeah, so what I loved about was the way he was describing weird Vermeer's paintings. I've heard of him. I never realized why he was so sought after. And each of them are trying to bring in their viewpoint on what perfection is.
Mhm.
And I do remember reading about the uh, how clean they keep those pits even after the car leaves the pit, because all those things, how perf- I mean, it is just a matter of practice, perfection as a practice.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think that's all I can say. You can go ahead.
yeah, sure. Yeah, let's continue.
Yes,
All
yes, please.
all this information is fantastic and so valuable for my art, the artist said gratefully as he put his shirt back on. Wonderful to hear, acknowledged the billionaire. Look, I know that you both have experienced a ton of learning in a very short time. I understand that getting up early is a new skill and you're installing and everything. You're, you've heard about chasing greatness, leaving the crowd, relinquishing average, and renouncing ordinary is probably overwhelming. So just breathe and relax, please. Exceptionalism is a journey. Virtuosity is a voyage. Rome wasn't built in a day, right? Right, agreed the artist. Definitely accepted the entrepreneur. And I also get that rising into more pure reaches of your superior strengths and more sovereign human gifts is an uncomfortable and scary process. and I've been through it. And the rewards that are on their way to you as you remain dedicated to learning the 5 a.m. method are worth more than any amount of money, fame, and worldly power you'll ever have. And what I've been taught you today, and what I've taught you today is necessary component to the system for waking before the daybreak and preparing yourself to be an elite achiever and luminous human being that that will go much deeper into our upcoming sessions. I guess what I really want to say before I let your cats go for this morning so you can have some fun is that while growth as a producer and as a person can be hard, it is truly the finest work a human being can do. And fully remember that you are the most alive when your heart beats quickest, and we are most awake when our fears scream loudest. So we need to keep going ahead, right? Confirm the entrepreneur as a lovely ocean breeze washed through her brown hair. Absolutely, said the tycoon. All shadows of insecurity dissolve in the warm glow of persistency. Okay, one last example about assuming the rigorous approach in your professional and home life and gaining a GCA skill by going all granular and on important projects around essential skills during meaningful activities. After that, I love to see you two to go swimming, snorkeling, and sunbathing. You should see the spectacular lunch my team has prepared for you. I need to head into Port Louis for a meeting, but I really hope you both will make yourselves at home. So, Mr. Riley stopped for a moment, reached down, touched his toes 4 times while muttering the following mantra. Today is a glorious day. I live it at excellence with boundless enthusiasm and limitless integrity, true to my visions, with my heart full of love. I remember reading an article, the billionaire continued, where the CEO of Moncler, the Italian fashion company, was asked what his favorite food was. He replied it was spaghetti pomodoro. Then she shared that while this dish seems strikingly simple to prepare, as it's only pasta, fresh tomatoes, olive oil, and basil, the executive remarked that that to get the calibration correct takes unusual expertise and uncommon prowess. That's an important word for all three of us to keep top of our mind as we tighten up our A games, elevate our performance, and accelerate our contribution to the world. Calibration, dialing in the finest of attitudes and refining your littlest of details is what granularity and ascension into the orbit of your inherent genius and a life magically lived is all about. The, the eccentric magnate that placed a piece of silver from the bottle into his pocket, into a pocket of his shorts and vanished. Chapter 10. The four focuses of history makers. The life given us by nature is short, but the memory of a well spent life is eternal. Cicero. The sunrise was dazzling as the entrepreneur and the artist walked hand in hand along the seashore to meet the billionaire at the designated meeting spot for the next morning's mentoring class. Mr. Riley was already there when they arrived, sitting on the sand, eyes closed in a deep meditation. He was shirtless, wearing camouflage pattern shorts similar to the one the spellbinder style the day he appeared on the beach, and a pair of rubber diving booties with smiley face emojis scattered over them. You would have been more than amused if you saw him in them. An assistant an assistant rushed out of the billionaire's home the instant he raised his hand towards heaven, displaying the universal victory sign. 3 crisp pages of paper were efficiently extracted from a shiny black leather satchel and handed to the titan of industry without a word being exchanged. Stone Riley simply offered the slightest bow of appreciation. In turn, he gave a sheet to each of his 2 students. It was exactly 5 a.m. The billionaire then picked up a seashell and skipped it across the water. It appeared as if he had something profound on his mind this morning. Gone were the usual lightheartedness, festivity, and awkward antics. You okay? Inquired the entrepreneur as she touched a bracelet engraved with the words straight on hustle. Rise and grind. I'll sleep when I'm dead. The tycoon read the words on the bangle. He placed a finger onto his lips. Who will cry when you die? He asked. What? Exclaimed the artist. What will those who you whisper about you once lived, once you're no longer here? The billionaire articulated the question in a manner of a skilled actor. You live as if you were destined to live forever. No thought of your frailty and ever enters your head. And how much time has already gone by you? Take no heed. You squander time as if you drew from a full and abundant supply, though all the while that day which you bestow on some person or thing is perhaps your last thought. Those are your thoughts. Brilliant, stated the artist. The billionaire looked mildly embarrassed. I wish. No, they belong to the Stoic philosopher Seneca. They came from his treatise on the shortness of life. So why are we talking about death on this beautiful morning exactly? Questioned the entrepreneur, appearing a little uncomfortable. Because most of us alive today wish we had more time. Yet we waste the time we have thinking about dying brings what matters most into much sharper focus. You stop allowing digital distractions, cyber diversions, and online nuisances to steal the irreplaceable hours of the blessing called your life. You never get your days back, said the billionaire in a friendly but firm fashion. I reread Chasing Daylight. I reread Chasing Daylight yesterday, after my meeting in town. It's the true story of high powered CEO Eugene O'Kelly, who was informed that he had only a few months left to live when his doctor discovered he had three brain tumors. So, what did he do? Asked the artist softly. He organized his days with the same commitment to orderliness he ran his business life by. O'Kelly tried to make up for the school concerts he'd missed, the family outings he'd passed, and the friendships he'd forgotten. In one part of the book, he shared that he'd ask a friend out for a walk in nature and that this was sometimes not only the final time we would take such a leisurely walk together, but also the first time. Sad was the contribution of the entrepreneur as she appeared nervously played with her bracelet. The worry lines on her forehead reappeared in full blazing glory. The last night I watched The Diving Bell and the Butterfly, one of my favorite movies. The billionaire continued. It's also a true story about a man who was atop the world and editor in chief of the French Elle magazine. Jean Dominique Bobby had it all and then suffered a stroke that left him unable to move any muscle in his body except for his left eyelid. The condition's called locked in syndrome. His mind still worked perfectly, but it was as if his body was encased in a diving bell, totally paralyzed. Sad, said the artist, echoing his companion. Get this, added Mr. Riley. His rehabilitation taught him a method of communication called silent alphabet, which allowed him to form letters of words by blinking. And with their help, he wrote a book about his experiences and an essential meaning of life. It took him 200,000 blinks, but he completed the book. I have nothing to complain about, the entrepreneur said quietly. He passed away shortly after the book published. The billionaire kept on. But the point I'm trying to offer with all this is that life is very, very fragile. There are people who will wake up today, take a shower, put on their clothes, drink their coffee, eat their oatmeal, and then be killed on a motor vehicle collision on their way to the office. That's just life happening. So, my advice is to you two special human beings is not to put off doing whatever it takes to express your natural genius. Life is a miracle that feels true to you and pay attention to the small miracles every day brings. I hear you, commented the artist as he tugged a dreadlock and fidgeted with the Panama hat he'd chosen to wear for this morning's coaching session. I do too, stated the entrepreneur somberly. Enjoy every sandwich, added the artist. Very wise insight, said Mr. Riley. It's not mine, the artist replied sheepishly. They're the words of the songwriter Baron Zevon. He spoke them after he discovered he was terminally ill. Be grateful for every moment. Don't be timid when it comes to your ambitions. Stop wasting your time on insanely trivial things and make it a priority to reclaim the creativity, fire, and potential that is dormant within you. It's so important to do so. Why do you think Plato encouraged us to know thyself? He understood intimately that we have vast reservoirs of ability that absolutely must be accessed and then applied in order for us to lead energetic, joyful, peaceful, meaningful lives. To neglect this hidden force inside us is to create a breeding ground for the pain of potential unused, the frustration of fearlessness unembraced, and the lethargy of masterfulness unexplored. The kids suffer wisdom, and a school of crownfish sailed through the water that was as clear as Abraham Lincoln's consciousness. This brings us beautifully to what I wanted to walk you through this morning. Please look carefully at your sheet of paper, the billionaire instructed. Here is the learning model that two students saw. The four focuses of history makers: one is capitalization IQ, two is freedom from distraction, three personal mastery practice, four day stacking. History maker focus. 1. Capitalization IQ. The Mogul explained the concept of capitalization developed by eminent psychologist James Flynn. The valuable insight he conceived is that what makes a legendary performance so good isn't the amount of natural talent they're born into, but the extent of potential they actually realize and capitalize. Many of the finest athletes in the world, Mr. Riley observed, had less innate skill than their competition, but it was their exceptional dedication, commitment, and drive to maximize whatever strengths they had that made them iconic. It's the old. It's not the size of a dog in a fight. It's the size of the fight in a dog inside. Declared the billionaire as he rubbed his chiseled abdominals absent-mindedly and put on a new pair of sunglasses, the kind you'd see on a surfer in California. The spellbinder taught me early that by joining the 5 a.m. club, I'd have a gorgeous window of opportunity every morning to cultivate my highest assets, take some time for myself, and do the preparation needed for me to make each day a tiny gem. He helped me understand that successful people use use their mornings well, and that by risking before daybreak, I'd win the primary victory that would set me up for a triumphant day. I never seemed to have any me time, interjected the entrepreneur. My schedule's always so full, she repeated. I love to have a block in the morning to recharge my batteries and do something that would make me a happier and better person. Exactly, remarked the billionaire. So many of us lead time starved lives. We absolutely need to have at least an hour first thing in the morning to refuel, grow, and become healthier and more peaceful. Getting up at 5 a.m., then running the 2020 formula, which you'll soon learn, will give you an extraordinary head start on your days. You'll be able to concentrate with high value activities instead of letting your day control you. You'll experience the energy you never knew you had. The joyfulness you'll reclaim will blow you away. and your sense of personal freedom will totally soar. Okay, let's stop here. Miss Taranjit, can you discuss what you understood just now?
Famous quote of Kabir ji, which we have been reading through generations. काल करे सो आज करे सो अब, पल में परले भयेगी फिर करेगा कब. It means that what we postpone to tomorrow, we should do it today, and what we have to do today, we should do it now only, because we don't know how much time we have. So it is what the writer focuses on is that life is very fragile. We don't know. We keep on planning. As a Japanese saying is there, that we should plan as if we are going to live for 100 years, but then we should perform that as we are going to die tomorrow. So this is what it is like. Life, we don't know how much time do we have in our hands. So instead of just thinking and planning and keep on thinking that I'll do this, I'll do that, you should do whatever is possible task on your hand immediately without delaying it much.
Yeah. So I think he's also, trying to convince us that getting up at 5 a.m. is perfect for people. He's trying to, give us a few points as to why getting up at 5 a.m. might be extra beneficial. First point that he said is about 99% of people, 99.9% of people do not get up at 5 a.m. So if we start our day early, we already have an edge over almost every other person on the planet. We'll have a lot of extra time, which we can use for ourselves to meditate, to exercise, to do the things that really make us happy, and to start a day on a good note. So I think, that's what the author is trying to tell with these points. To start the day on a good note, and if we wake up at 5 a.m., we have a lot of time for ourselves and we can make better decisions, which in turn leads to a better day and leads to a, what do we say, brighter future. That's it.
Good, Bhavish, and thank you, Taranjit. Your insights always very insightful. I'm repeating
Thank you.
myself, but yeah.
And one more, the quote I liked very much. Today is a glorious day, which the entrepreneur, the billionaire says to himself. Today is a glorious day, and I live it at its excellence with boundless enthusiasm and limitless, true to my vision, and with a heart full of love. That was something really, I've noted it down. It's really something very
Yes,
nice.
you can use it as an affirmation every day.
Yes, very beautiful quote it is. Like in my school, I'm sorry, but in my school, I always tell my children that the first thing that you get up, the first thing you should tell that I today is my day. Oh my God. Today is my day. I'm going to give my 100%. I am the best. So this is something like a small mantra, and this is also something very good. It's really very nice.
Yeah, thank you so much. Sandhya, I think we can close the meeting. Bhavish, share the report in the group.
Yes.
Yeah, thank
Thank
you.
you, Bhavesh,
Sandhya,
for reading to us.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Good night.
thank you.